Namaste, and welcome to Season 2 of the Sadhana series. Season 1 was all in French. Season 2 will be in English. This season, we're going to be looking at the anatomy of yoga. And I'm not going to necessarily describe each of the anatomical terms of the body and all this stuff. I don't want to make it too boring for you. But I do want to make sure that we remember that as we're going through the more physical aspect of our practice, that we are remembering the highest. We are remembering the universal, the spiritual, and the core essence of who we are. So many yoga practices neglect to inform students about the philosophical aspects of the practice. And that's why I love Anusara Yoga. Because within each practice is a tidbit of information that links the practice, the physical practice, to the more spiritual, esoteric, and philosophical practice. And the knowledge that is contained in the philosophy that helps not only guide our practice or orient our practice to the center of who we are and to the essence of who we are, but it also helps us learn how the philosophy teaches us how to deal with everyday life. This season, we're going to be looking at how the physical body can inform us about the universe. How the anatomy of the physical body and how knowing about the physical body can give us insight into the structure and into the structure of the universe, how it's formed, how what it's composed of in a way, and also when we also learn about how to work within our bodies, it also somehow helps us to learn how to be in nature, to learn how to be and how to function in the world. What I noticed in my own practice is, as I navigated the physical body, I realized that this physical body is all essentially one. It's there's so much awareness, there's so much life going on inside the body, even if my mind is focusing on other things. The body is vibrant, it's alive, and it shines. It is very much radiant, and there's an intelligence in the body that guides our body. Imagine if you had to tell each part of your body what to do so that you can stay alive. It would be impossible. And yet there's this built-in mechanism in the body, in the physical body, that allows, that keeps everything working. And then when something is not working, there's that same intelligence in the body that relays that information to our brains to give us some signal out here that we should go see a doctor, or that we should go seek help, or just the sensation that something's wrong. It's so incredible. Like, I just find it so fascinating. And just in diving into the fascination of our physical bodies can, for me at least, can lead us into, has led me into the fascination of the world. And my fascination of the world and what's going on around me has led me to be even more curious about what's going on within my body. So much so that over the years that I've been practicing yoga, I've made so many changes in my life, whether it's changes to my diet, changes to my physical exercise regimen, even different ways of being in life and perceiving people, observing people, judging people less, and sometimes not even at all. Being more compassionate with people. It's just helped me all around in practicing yoga. I just felt I've just been able to transform so many aspects of my life. Let's remember that when we're practicing the physical practice of yoga asana, yoga postures, that there's this depth that we can go into. There's a depth that we can go to, not only to learn about ourselves, but to learn about ourselves and the world and the universe. In the next couple of weeks of practices, we're going to be looking at the body. But I wanted to give you an image. This image comes from Christopher Harish Wallace's book, Tantra Illuminated. And it's the tantric, it's from the tantric philosophy. And it's the way that the tantric philosophy subdivides all of the different layers of consciousness. So for those of you who are not aware of it, it's important to know that we are multi-layered beings. And at the core essence of who we are, at the core of who we are is consciousness. So everything that our body and our mind, everything that we are as individuals is awareness itself, is consciousness. And that consciousness is called chit. And it's whenever we're speaking to the highest or our absolute selves, the pureness of ourselves, we're speaking about this core, which is the center of these circles. And I describe it as the light of awareness. So we are all light. We are all light. And in saying that we are all light, it means that this light is what allows us to experience and to experience not only our physical bodies, but to experience life itself. So, and all of the qualities that are part of life. And if you look at this image of these circles, there are 5 major layers to who we are. Moving from the core, from the light of awareness, out to the periphery, we can see that first we are this light, chit, or consciousness. We are awareness. And because we are consciousness, this light can shine out and can become and observe many different things. This light needs to have a space to move through, and that space is called the void, if you wish. And if we move beyond that, then we get the layer of prana. So before we can be anything even physical, we have to be energy. There has to be some kind of movement, some kind of force. And it's because of chit, it's because of the light of our awareness that moves, the movement of this light, this movement of this awareness through the power of prana. Prana is the life force energy. It's the fundamental life force energy. So because of this energy, just like we can think of, something to drop on the floor, there needs to be the force of gravity. So for this light of consciousness to be able to shine and radiate and to experience life, there needs to be some kind of force of movement that moves it into radiance. And this force is what we call prana. So prana vibrates and pulsates through each one of us, and it is really the motivating force and the fundamental life force of all of life. And now once we have this movement, the light, just like the rays of the sun might shine in different directions and in different intensities, the light of consciousness of our core shines and becomes our thoughts, it becomes our emotions and our feelings. And in order to experience those thoughts, emotions, and sensations or feelings, we need to have a body, and that is the outermost layer. So in the body, we have all of this stuff of the body, the organs, the tissues, the muscles, everything that that we can, when we look in the mirror, that's what our body is. But body is also everything that we can touch, you know, the matter, the material of the world. And it is because of all the sub-layers that allow the body to be. So we come back to our core, which is the consciousness. So at the essence of who we are as human beings embodied in this body is consciousness. The essence of our being is consciousness. And this consciousness comes to be through the power of prana, and moves in so many ways that allows us to experience the body through the body. So with that awareness, we come to the study of yoga, asana, and in the practice of yoga itself, we do cover all of these layers. We practice physical practice to make the body strong, so that we can go deeper and learn about what's going on inside the body. But we're also going to be practicing physical asana in order to see that through the physical body we can experience our thoughts, our emotions, our sensations. We can experience the movement of the breath. We can experience the stillness of the mind, and we can experience awareness itself or consciousness itself. As we know, in the yoga practice, we have many practices like we have asana, which works the physical body. We have pranayama, which works more with the prana, with the breath. We have focusing exercises within meditation to help anchor the mind and steady the emotions. And there's many other practices in Tantra through meditation practices, use of mantra, and so on, that help us access or gain glimpses of the consciousness that is within, the consciousness that we are. You know, so consciousness is not something we look into a box, we look into ourselves and we say, oh, there it is, but we are it. We are it. If I am here, if you can see me, if you can have the experience of watching me or yourself, it is because there is a light, and that light is shining, and it is the consciousness that is your essence. That is your essence. That's who you are really. And then you are the more superficial layers, just like the image I just showed you, ending with the physical body that we all experience as somehow separate from everything else. So with that being said, this season, we're going to be looking at this superficial body. We're going to be looking at the matrix of the body in terms of the myofascial matrix, the fascia of the body. And I'll explain that more as we go through the season, as I unpack all of this information that I'm telling you now. But in essence, we can think of the fascia as being the web of connective tissue that holds everything together. So if we think of consciousness, consciousness is the core, right? Chit, what I showed you on the picture in the middle of the onion of that circle, is consciousness, is light, is awareness. And it is the awareness that weaves itself through everything else. So we're going to be looking at how that, we're going to be looking even more at that connective tissue matrix. First, learning about it as a physical thing, but also remembering that we're using this observation of the myofascial matrix as kind of a metaphor for understanding more and more this this light of consciousness that penetrates everything and supports everything. So the fascia of the body, once again, is this matrix, this webbing that holds the body together, that holds all of the pieces together. And it also interweaves itself, like cobwebs get everywhere in your house, in the corners, and even in between shelves and between lights and stuff. I was just seeing in my bathroom today that there was like cobwebs like going through like the light fixture. So, you know, this web of awareness, consciousness, this web of fascia moves through and around the muscles, the tissues, the blood vessels. It goes around the organs. We know that if you cut into a body and you open the body, it's not just like an open box where you just like pull things out, but it's, you know, we can think of the box being filled with all these little, you know, the little foam balls. And then you find the organs, you find the stuff in the box. So those foam balls are like the matrix, the myofascial matrix, or at least the type of fascia that we're going to be talking about in this course, in this season. So we're going to be looking at the different myofascial lines in the body, the different kind of highways in the body that support this physical body. And they each have, they each kind of have a function, if you wish, that runs parallel to the functioning of the muscles that they innervate or that they support. They can be, fascia can be stretched, it can be shortened or tightened, and it's usually in the physical body what limits us physically is often the structure of this fascia. Because of our daily habits, the way we sit, the way we stand, the way we move during the day, all of those factors, all of those movement patterns will have an effect on how this matrix kind of shapes itself and how it holds the body. So when we're talking about bringing the body into balance, or freeing ourselves from suffering, which is a big topic and a big topic in yoga, and one of the reasons that we practice yoga is to be free from suffering. So when we're looking at this topic of freeing ourselves from suffering, we can look at it from multiple levels, right? We can free ourselves spiritually from suffering, mentally, emotionally, or physically. So we have all of these layers, like the picture that I showed you, and we can free ourselves from suffering by working on any of these layers. And the way we're going to be doing it is we're going to be working on that most superficial layer of the physical body, learning how to realign the body, noticing our patterns, noticing how we hold our bodies, noticing where we're stuck, where we're suffering in the body, and then becoming aware of that suffering, and then bringing ourselves into, with the knowledge that we will learn through our practice, bringing ourselves back into alignment, bringing ourselves back into a space where we are more free and where the tissues of the body are not battling with each other as much. Now, that being said, we are human beings. We are constantly under the different forces of nature, forces of life. One day we might feel really good, and then the next we feel horrible. One day it's beautiful outside, the next it's not. And we're constantly battling all of these different natural forces of life. So the human body is not static. There is change that's going to always happen. And even when we bring our body into balance, into alignment, it has a tendency to move out of balance. And that's normal. What is important is that we learn how to recognize when we've been pulled out of balance, when we've been pulled out of our center, when one of these tissues or body parts is under tension or strain, and then gather the information through our practice, through our physical practice, gather information on how we can release these tensions, how we can create balance, how we can create harmony, so that when our body is drawn out of center in our day-to-day life, we can learn how to we can quickly bring it back and in a way avoid moving into a space where we are unconsciously suffering with something that we could change ourselves. So this is a lot of information, and we are going to unpack this information little by little throughout the rest of this series. And I want to invite you, because this is can sometimes be dense in information, that you just allow it to sit wherever it sits in your mind. And the things that don't resonate with you right now, you can come back to these videos later on, perhaps in a few months from now, or in a few years from now, and you can do them again, and you're going to see that you'll have a different understanding of the material. Please take any of my advice as more of a suggestion, a playful suggestion to explore a greater definition of who you may be. And whatever sits well with you, take it for whatever it is, and whatever doesn't sit well with you, put it to the side. It's not important to digest or to take everything that I'm offering. Yoga is all about, again, recognizing who we are, overcoming or freeing ourselves from suffering, and being able to experience the joy of life. So thank you for joining me this season. Namaste.